Okay, and welcome everybody to the third class. As usual, we'll start with a small chant to thank Shankaracharya and the tradition of Acharyas who have given us this knowledge. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Salutations to the lineage starting with Lord Sadashiva, with Adi Shankara in the middle, and continuing up to my immediate teacher. Okay, so in the last few classes, so we've kind of seen an introduction of how the Bhagavad Gita fits into the grand scheme of things. And last class we saw how Arjuna surrendered. He was trying to solve the problem by himself, but he was getting more and more desperate and hopeless. So he surrendered to Krishna. He says, Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. I completely surrendered. Please teach me. That's what he says. And Krishna, so far, he was just observing him rant. And then after he surrenders, that's when Krishna starts talking. So in the rest of the chapter, Arjuna only asks one question. So we heard him rant. So in the first chapter, it's full of his ranting. Now it's Krishna's turn to talk. So I sent a small note about Vedanta in general and why we need um, a commentary to study this. So the Vedanta, it's you can view it as a science. For example, academics, they seem to love it because it's like a perfect science. Talks about creation. So from consciousness came matter. So there's also, later we'll see in the 7th chapter, it talks about all this. So the Kammano buddhir evacha ahankaram iti yamme binna prakriti ashtada. The prakriti comes, so it has 8 forms. Into mind is also considered subtle matter. So from consciousness comes matter. Bhagavan, so bhumirapo nalo vayuhu kammano buddhirevacha. So it talks about all this evolution. So it's very systematic and scientific. And Swami Paramatmananda, he will also joke that everything is so ties so well. For example, when a mosquito bites you, the mosquito is getting good karma, so its karma baggage is ultimately for liberation. You're both your good karma, bad karma, they have to be 0. That's when you get liberated. So you would joke that the mosquito's bad karma, good karma is coming down, it's exhausting, it's spending money, right? And the person's bad karma is also coming down, so both get liberated. So he'll just joke, but this is how it is. It is very systematic and scientific. And if it is so, we can get confused. And that is why we need the commentary of a genius like Shankaracharya. And if you follow this pattern, studying Gita will be extremely easy. Otherwise, it's just disparate information. What did I say? Which chapter was this? I don't know what the chapter was about. But if you look at it this way, the first 6 chapters, Prathama Shatkam, we saw Shatkam is 6 chapters, right? It is about the Jiva, the Atma. The second 6 chapters, the Madhyama Shatkam, the main topic is Ishvara. And the Charama Shatkam, or the final 6 chapters, the main topic is the oneness of Jiva and Ishvara. It is called Jivatma Aikya Jnanam. Aikyam, that's the equality, the oneness of Jiva and Ishvara. And so these are the main chapters. In addition, there are 2 other topics. Main topic is Jiva. There are 2 other topics in the first Shatkam. And we'll see that in the second chapter. Second chapter is like the most important chapter. It gives an overview of the entire Gita. So other two topics are Karma Yoga, and we'll see why. We talked about there are only two yogas in the Bhagavad Gita. Karma Yoga, to make the mind fit for receiving the knowledge, and Jnana Yoga, which causes liberation. So this is very clearly stated. There are all the yogas fall under Karma Yoga. Meditation falls under Karma Yoga. It is for Chitta Shuddhi, the purity of the mind. And the third topic that Krishna talks about is the importance of individual effort. It's nothing is, you have the karma determines a trajectory, but you also have some individual effort to change things. So this is very important. So these are the three topics. If you study it this way, it becomes extremely easy. And that's why we need great acharyas, Shankaracharya and the Paramaswami, Paramatmananda, to give this in this form. So we'll stick to this, so things become very easy. Okay. So now, okay, we saw you can divide now coming into second. So we saw how Bhagavad Gita is divided. Now we'll see how the second chapter is divided. We saw the first portion, Arjuna surrenders, until shloka 10. Then the second portion is Jnana Yoga. Krishna immediately zaps him with the ultimate knowledge. This is the most important portion of the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is called Atma Vidya, knowledge of the Atma. Okay, this is from 11 to 39. Of this is Jnana Yoga. Atma Jnanam is 11 to 25. This is the core of the Gita. In fact, it is worth memorizing these shlokas. It's so important. Then comes Karma Yoga. So Krishna knows. Krishna gives him the highest knowledge first. And then he knows he can't understand this. So he talks about Karma Yoga, the mental attitude, what you need to prepare the mind so it stabilizes to understand all this. So he's going about it extremely systematically. If we do randomly read the Bhagavad Gita, it will seem extremely contradictory. As I talked about 2 verses in the 9th chapter in the message I sent, they are just contradicting each other. And Krishna is a mischievous person. We know that, right? So he teases even us like this, and he will try to confuse, but he's doing this with a reason, because Shankaracharya then explains. So Krishna says, all beings abide in me. And then next verse, not even another chapter, beings don't abide in me. Why is that? So it's like it seemingly looks like this. That's what Shankaracharya interprets. It's like a dream. So we need a thorough interpretation. So all this, if I don't understand something, I will just tell that this is my limited understanding, but I'll just follow whatever Shankaracharya has said through Swami Paramatmananda. The final portion is contains one of the most beautiful verses. It is called Sthita Prajna. Sthita Prajna, person of steady wisdom. Once the person has started doing asana practice, meditation, proper diet, ethics, this wisdom becomes steady. And there's some most beautiful shlokas in this. Apuryamana pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yatvat tatvat kamanyam pravishanti sarve sashantimapnoti na kamakami. Like an ocean which remains unchanged when all the rivers flow into it, like that, the person of steady wisdom, that person's mind is unperturbed. However, all fancy things, food, wealth, everything, it doesn't perturb that person's mind. So this is a very important portion. So this is how it's structured shloka wise, and then now we will get into the main portion. So hope everything is clear. If you have questions, please let me know. So 11 to 25, we will try to cover about 8 verses today. Now, the entire of Vedanta, there's a concept it's all about Purusha and Prakriti. That is Vedanta. Yoga, that is yoga. Yoga is all about this. Yoga is a technique to still the mind. Yoga ha chitta vritti nirodha, so that it can understand these things. Okay? Purusha is the consciousness. It is not energy, it is not matter. And it is the one which gives light. And because of that, everything is visible. And then there's the Prakriti. Prakriti contains of body, mind, senses, other bodies, other objects in the world, everything. Now, the Purusha illuminates, and in its presence, you see everything. Okay? Sometimes it may look like the mind is the one which is the lord of the body because it directs everything. No, it is actually the light from the Purusha reflecting of the mirror and coming. So mind sometimes can think it is the king, hero, the brain, right? But it is not so. Okay, so this is an important thing they talk in Vedanta. Now, in yoga, they give a slightly it's the same thing. They view it from a different the Purusha and Prakriti. It's they give a different way of viewing this. The Purusha is a observer. This is how Patanjali explains. Patanjali uses the word called pratyaya. Pratyaya means it's like a movie theater screen. Our mind is a pratyaya. It's basically behind the forehead. You can say, think there's a screen there. And the screen constantly, even in dream state, images are being played. And there is sounds, loudspeaker. And in this movie theater is empty. There's only one spectator, mere observer. This is the Purusha. And when the mind stills down, because you're bringing the senses inward, if you start looking at something nice, your mind starts running away. It's just producing so many images. So you bring the senses inward. This is a very important topic, sense control. And you bring the senses inward, then what happens? All the images they stop. The sounds stop. Then what is the Purusha able to see on the silver screen? Its own reflection. That's why Patanjali, in the third sutra, he says, Tada drashtuhu swarupe vastanam. The drashta resides in its own true nature, swarupam, because it is not seeing all that nonsense on the screen, it's just seeing its own reflection. So I'm giving these examples to illustrate the Purusha and the... Okay, Sumitra, you have a question?
Yes, Anna. Um, is Pratyaya the screen or is Chitta the screen?
Yeah. So
because I recall in one of the classes,
correct.
Anna, Sriram Anna saying that Pratyaya is the scenery that takes place in the screen of the Chitta.
Yeah.
So I'm a little confused here.
Yeah. I usually look at as Chitta as this movie theater, and Pratyaya as the Pratyayasya Parachitta Jnanam. In fact, Sriram actually, I think maybe he's using these two interchangeably. Pratyaya, he himself has told me that it is the screen, but it's all analogies.
Okay, because I'm a little, because sometimes you also associate Chitta to be the mirror. So I thought, okay, probably Chitta is the screen and Pratyaya is the scenery that takes place in the screen at that point of time. That's what I understood. So please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you can think of it that way. Either way, it's Pratyaya. You can just think of as the whatever is being played. That's fine too. I just want to give you a notional understanding. Patanjali doesn't say it is a movie theater and all this, but this is kind of what you kind of gather. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So Now, okay, all these concepts, right? Why are we wasting our time? Why am I producing this slide set with some 140 slides? It's a lot of people say this all, it doesn't help us in any way. It's complete waste. Now, um, Swami Paramatmananda, he says, Vedanta is a superpower. So this knowledge of Purusha Prakriti. Why? Because when we feel constrained, right, we have very limited options. What happens? Stress develops. Um, some probably many of you have grown up in India, and their exams and all this. It's options are much lesser. You have to, if you don't pass the 12th exam, you don't get good. Your entire life can be affected based on the mark and all your score. Now, so when you have less options, it creates stress. How much stress before the exam? Whereas if you see in other countries, they have a lot more options. It's not like one exam that determines. Similarly, when you look at the big picture view across lifetimes, let's say in this lifetime, you develop a condition that kind of hinders certain activities. You can just think of it as, okay, a passing phase, but in the next lifetime, it'll be different. That gives enormous freedom and ease. And this is the motivation. So Vedanta gives very big picture view. And that, in fact, in life, when you start imbibing these concepts, in life, your perspective changes. Even if it's a little bit, what it does is it reduces the stress. And that is the reason we study this. Okay. So now we will jump into the main topic, 11 to 25, Atma Jnanam, nature of the eternal Atma. And it contains some of the most important verses in the Bhagavad Gita. As I said before, we'll do the chanting together at the end. I will just chant now. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashocyan Anvashocastvam Prajnapadanshcha Bhashase Gathasu Nagathasunscha Nanushocanti Panditaha. Okay, so here Bhagavan Krishna, remember in the 10th verse, Krishna is always, yes, like he's little naughty. He is just smiling. When Arjuna was grieving, his eyes were Ashrupurna Akula Ikshanam. His Ikshanam eyes were full of tears and he's so sad. Krishna smiles at him and he says, Ashochan Anvashochastvam. The Blessed Lord said, you are grieving for those who should not be grieved for. Ashochan means grieving. Anvashochas for those who should, Anvashochaha for those who should not be grieved. Tvam, you, but prajna vadanshcha bhashase. We saw prajna, right? Prajna means wisdom, sthita prajna. You seemingly talk vadam, words. You seemingly speak words of wisdom. Bhashase means it's language. So gata soon, agata soonscha. Gata means gone. Asun, it is the life breath. Gata soon, agata soonscha, and not life breath, not gone, which means dead and the living. Gata soon, agata soonscha, na anushochanti pandita. Na anushochanti, they don't grieve. Who don't grieve? The wise people. So this Adi Shankara says is a very important shloka, because here is where Krishna says, in order for you not to grieve, for no sorrow in life, you have to be wise, Pandita. That is why it is interpreted, Jnana is the one which leads to liberation. all the other karma yoga, everything, it is for preparing the mind. Okay. And this shloka, as I just now said, it's a very important shloka. It is the foundation for Jnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge. So, as I already mentioned, the 2 steps for liberation, Karma Yoga to prepare the mind, and then Jnana is what gives the ultimate liberation. So, Swami Paramatmananda, he interprets it this way. So, the wise don't grieve means knowledge needed for removing sorrow, which is the human condition. Corollary is ignorance causes sorrow. And in the Yoga Sutras, very clearly it says, Avidya kshetram uttaresham prasuptatanu vichinnodharanam. Avidya, the place of ignorance of all these kleshas, it's the highest, it gets a top rank. It's the most powerful klesha. Avidya kshetram uttaresham, it gets first place of all the kleshas. And how can it come? Prasupta tanu vichinna udaranam. It can be latent, tanu feeble, vichinna intermittent. Udarana means uses the word generous. Patanjali. So even though it's a scientific document, is just teasing. He's using the word generous. And then he also says, Tasya hetu avidya. All the causes of all the problems is avidya. Hetu is cause. All so jnana is the most important thing. It is the one that causes liberation. Okay, is it clear? And this is also, we'll see when we come to 2.53 and 2.72. So there are 72 shlokas in this chapter. So Krishna reminds in the middle about jnana, and in the end he says, yeah, jnana, follow jnana. That is the one which will remove sorrow and help with liberation. Okay. Then Bhagavan says, Natvevaham jatu nasam Natvam neme janadipaha Nachaiva na bhavishyamaha Sarve vayamata param. There was never a time indeed when I did not cease to exist, nor you, nor these kings, nor verily shall we cease to exist hereafter. So this is what Bhagavan says. So let's look at the word by word meaning. Na tu eva aham. Aham is I. Tu is indeed. Na tu eva verily. So not verily indeed was I never there. So he is using double negatives here. There was never a time when I did not exist. So he could have just said, I always existed. He's using double negatives. There was never a time when I did not exist. Natu eva aham jatu. Jatu means existed. Na asam. Na asam means was not there. Na tvam. Now tvam is you, not you. Na ime janadipa. Jana adipa. Adhikari is the lord of people, which is a king. Not these kings. Okay. Na cha eva cha is and, na cha eva and, not na bhavishyamaha sarve vayam atah param. So na bhavishyamaha means not shall we cease to exist. Bhavati means exist. Na bhavishyamaha means we won't cease to exist. Sarve, all, who, all, and all of us. Vayam is I am is I, Vayam is all of us. Sarve Vayam, all of us. Ataha Param, Ataha, now, Param, after this. So it says, nor verily shall we cease to exist hereafter. So it's a play on words. He's kind of making it more punchy. It's, to give the poetic expression its full force. He's using double negatives and all this. It's a very powerful verse. Natve vaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadipaha nachaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayamata param. Okay. Now, this is a example. I've already brought this example, but just wanted to remind again. The in Vedanta study, they give this example of ocean and the wave. Okay, the wave is born, it vanishes. Um, Before birth and after vanishing, it remains as water in the ocean. And similarly, the Atma will see that. So this is what Krishna is alluding here. We were all existed, and the next verse he'll explain it even more. Um, it existed before birth and after death. Atma existed. Okay, so this you have to remember. Then Vedanta becomes very clear. The analogy. This is repeatedly quoted in Vedanta study. And we will also see um, another important concept in Vedanta. So we talked about Purusha and Prakriti, consciousness and matter. So, and in Vedanta it is called Atma Satyaha. Satya means real, which means it is real means it's not changing. If something is not real, it'll change. Apple will decay. So it's no more apple, it'll just decay into something else. That's why Atma Satyaha, Jagat Mityaha. Everything in life, even our own bodies, they decay. After death, we're gone. We're part of the soil, or burnt, whatever. Jagat Mityaha. Mithya doesn't means it's a myth, it's like a Maya. Some people say, oh, it's Maya. No. Atma is not subject to change. World is subject to change. Okay, this is the core concept. Then comes another very important verse. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantara praptihi dhirastatra na muhyati. The Dehi, Deham is the body, right? Dehi is the one that lives in the body. It's the indweller. Okay. Dehi Asmin Dehe, which means this in this body, the Dehi in this body, Yatha, just like Yatha means just like the Dehi in this body experiences what? Kaumaram, Yauvanam, Jara. Kaumaram is childhood. Yauvanam, youth. Probably it's English word youth also comes from this same root. Yauvanam, Jara means decay. So it's old age, decaying. Yauvanam, Jara. Tata, like that. Yatha, tata go together. Like, and like that. That Deha Antara Praptihi. At the time of death, what does it do? It praptihi, it take deha antara. Prapti means it acquires a new body. Dhiraha tatrana muhyati. Again, Krishna says, Dhiraha, the wise people do not grieve at this. Krishna repeatedly says, wisdom, that's what is needed. Okay, that is when you get mukti. So here comes, so the Shankaracharya gives 5 qualities of the Atma. And here we are almost seeing the first quality, which is Atma is purely the experiencer. It can never be experienced. Anything that can be experienced is Anatma. Atma can never be experienced. So Shankaracharya lists 5 properties of the Atma. All those. This is why these 11 to 25 are considered the most important verses. It lists these properties, explains them over and over again. Aprameyaha, that which cannot be comprehended. Avinashi, it is eternal, not subject to destruction. Sarvagataha, all pervading. Nirvikaraha. So vikara in some South Indian languages, in Tamil also they use Munji Vikarama, which means face is disfigured. Actually, in Sanskrit, it just means change. Vikaram, so it means nirvikara also means nitya. It's constant. It's no change. Akarta and abhokta. It, as I said, it's just sitting and seeing the screen. It's not doing anything. It's no doer of actions and not affected by it. Because it doesn't do anything, it does not get karma. This is the interesting point. So where does the karma go? We'll see that later. So the first property of the Atma experiences Kaumaram, Yavanam, Jara in this body. Okay? Aprameyaha. Prameyam means object of knowledge. Aprameyam means something which can never be the object of knowledge. It is inconceivable. That is Atma. So that's why people say the Atma is much more difficult to understand than Ishvara. Let's see if I can pull up something. Okay. So Atma is far. So Ishvara, you see, nice thing you can visualize, even though Krishna later talks in the Bhagavad Gita. So this is only one form of Ishvara. It's a lower form. Then Saguna Ishvara, then Nirguna Ishvara, without qualities. That is my higher nature. And Atma, it's inconceivable, incognizable. And so Atma is much more difficult to realize than Ishvara. So Swami Paramatmananda will joke. One person came to him and said, Swamiji, I understood the entire Bhagavad Gita. First chapter especially was easy. Everybody blowing their own trumpets, all the battle, everything. 11th chapter was also easy. Krishna shows his Vishwarupa Darshana, people head getting crushed, getting stuck in his teeth, his gory teeth, all that very nicely I understood. The second chapter on the Atma, that alone I'm having problem. And Swamiji told him, this is the entire the entire Bhagavad Gita. The rest are all just paraphernalia. So Atma, that's why it's very difficult to understand. It's aprameyaha. It is, it's not the object of knowledge. Okay. The never the experienced, it's not stated here, but later in the 18th verse in this chapter, we'll see Antavanta ime dehaha nityasyokta sharirinaha anashinau aprameyasya tasmad yuddhasva bharata. He says Antavantaha ime deha. These bodies, they're all have a beginning and an end. Antavantaha. Nityas Ukta, the Sharirina, the one which Shariri is the one which lives inside the Shariram. It is Anashi and Aprameya, indestructible and incognizable. Okay. Now, I'm just giving Swamiji's example. So Swamiji gives the example of a camera. People ask, how do I know? Give me proof that the Atma exists. If you can give proof, science we reject it, but the reality is Atma cannot be experienced. So he gives the example of a camera. It takes pictures of everything other than itself. What is the proof the camera exists? The pictures are the proof. So Swamiji just leaves it like that. So for people who want proof. Okay. Now then, with this knowledge that you are the Atma, different from the body, then there what develops? Titiksha, endurance of suffering. So Bhagavan Krishna says in Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agama payino nityaha Tan titikshasva Bharata. Okay. So one of the things I have to remind us, so this is like one full compound word, right? The way we chant, we break it and follow the meter. So when it's written as a full sentence, so here, Agama Payino, for those who know Sanskrit, Agama Payino Nityas, Nityas Tantitik Shasva Bharata. It compounds these two. Agamapayino Nityaha Tani Titikshasva Bharata. So when you combine, it becomes Agamapayino Nityastam Titikshasva Bharata. But when we chant, we do Agamapayino Nityaha Tam Titikshasva Bharata, because we are not doing a full compound sentence. We are splitting and chanting. Okay, so you will see a lot of things where it's like that. The context of the senses with the sense objects, matra, sparsham is essentially is contact, sparsham. Matra sparshas, matra means the instruments of experience. Matra sparshas to Kaunteya, indeed, Kaunteya. Kaunteya here is Arjuna, son of Kunti. Kunti's putra, Radeya refers to um, Karna, son of Radha. Kaunteya refers to Arjuna, son of Kunti. Shitoshna Sukha Dukkada. So the contacts of senses with sense objects produce Shita Ushna. Shita is cold. Shitali, the cooling breath in pranayama. You do that, right? Shita Ushnam is heat. Sukha Dukkham, pleasure and pain. Agam Apayino Nityaha, they come and go. Agam Apayino Nitya Anitya, it is not permanent. Anityaha, Agam Apayinaha, Anityaha, Agam Apayino, Anityaha, Tani, them, Titikshasva Bharata, endure them. Bharat here, Bharata refers to the descendant of Bharata, which is Arjuna. You will see the word Bharata being used to describe Dhritarashtra, Arjuna, everything, not Krishna. So they're all descendants of Bharata. So in the 10th shloka, Sanjaya says, Sanjaya is addressing Dhritarashtra. There also Bharata was used. Okay. So this is also an important shloka which says, just bear it patiently. It'll come and go. So when we panic, oh, this is going to be forever. No, it'll at some point it'll go, whether this lifetime or next lifetime. Okay. Apayina is departing, so it'll eventually go. Okay. Now, the benefits of titiksha. So, by the way, I wanted to ask you, there's some road construction going on. Is it disturbing you a lot? No? Okay. Benefits of titiksha. So, let's listen to this shloka. Yam hina pyatayantyete Purusham Purusharshaba Samadukka Sukham Dhiram Somritatvaya Kalpate. So here, Krishna, as I said, both Krishna and Arjuna exchange names. They glorify each other. Here, Krishna uses a name, Purusha Rishabha, which Rishabha means bull, which literally means bull among men. Bull is considered like the very strong, like of all, it's so strong of animals, right? So he says bull among men, Purusha Rishabha. So we've seen this kind of words are used everywhere. Narashardula, we in Venkatesha Suprabhatam. Kausalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate Uttishta Narashardula Kartavyam Daivamanmikam. Tiger among men. Nara Shardula. of men, tiger. So these are all words to pump up people, praise. So here, Purusha Rishabha, most prominent among men. It's like a bull among men. Yam hina vyatayante te. For that person, yam, whom these don't afflict, vyatayanti ete, sama dukkha sukham dhiram, one who's samam, balanced in dukkha and sukha, like sorrow and joy. Dhiram, dhiram means it's very steady. Such person is amritatvaya kalpate, fit for immortality, fit for liberation. So this is what Krishna, this is the benefits of titiksha. It develops this, your mind becomes even more, because if you start panicking, your mind gets agitated. But if you just accept it, then it gives a lot of benefits to the mind. That is what Krishna is trying to say here. Any questions so far? We've covered 5 shlokas. I'll cover 3 more and then we'll do the chanting. Sounds good? Any questions so far? Yes, Anjana.
So all of these shlokas are in Anushtup meter or Trishtup meter?
Yeah, all these are in Anushtup. So Trishtup will come soon.
Okay.
There's one which will soon. So when everybody is falling asleep, that's when Trishtup comes
Trishtup.
to wake us up. So yes, Sumitra.
What are the practical way in which one could develop this endurance for today's generation? I mean, for us in general. I mean, I understand it when it's written here, but what are the practical way in which you can develop that endurance body-wise, mind-wise, emotion-wise, when you're actually put in a war zone-like situation?
So, okay, I'll give you, this is what people have told me. I'm not like a guru or anything, so I'm just an ordinary person. A lot of the things we do in yoga practice, for example, Pashasana. If you see, does anybody know Pashasana? So let's see if I have Pashasana. One of the examples of Pashasana, okay. Pasha is the celestial rope, right? Yama wields this rope. Now this is Pashasana. It's considered like you're squeezing your chest and everything, and it's very difficult to breathe in this pose. Okay, so when you do asana, meditation, all this, when you do this, a lot of people, it helps with claustrophobia. So it's a lot of these twists and these marichyasana, because it teaches you to breathe in a very constricted position. Not just this asana. There's one example. So how you asked how we can train our bodies to bear all this, it is through asana and also meditation by relaxing the body. Okay, so this is essentially the whole notion of Pashasana, is that when you are able to breathe in this position, it's like you conquered death. You're not afraid of death anymore. Okay, and Jayalakshmi, you had a question?
Yeah, when he says a person becomes fit for immortality, right? The Atman is already immortal. Does he mean that's the end of the cycles of births and deaths?
Yeah, so it's just here, it's just a figurative speech. So you have to remember, this is all poetry. So Krishna is just glorifying here, immortal. So Atma is immortal. He's just glorifying, just because in the world of men, just immortality means a person with the same body lives forever. That's not going to happen. But that, Arjuna is not a evolved mind. So it's just glorifying by saying immortal. That's it. Okay. We've finished 5. Now, this is a very important shloka. Shankaracharya has given, I don't know, it's like in these books, 20 pages of commentary. This is one of the most commented shlokas. It is called a Granthi shloka. Granthi is a knot. So we have the chakras, right? They're all called Granthis. Brahma Granthi, Brahmandra. So that is here, all that, right? Granthi is a knot. So the Kundalini apparently rises there because of the knot. It's going, not moving. Then it shatters the knot. It goes up, all that they say, right? So Granthi is a knot. How did the knot come about? Vyasa wanted somebody when he was, he wanted to write Mahabharata. So Vyasa is Vishnu's form. Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya, Vyasa Rupaya Vishnave. We hear that in Vishnu Sahasranamam. He wanted somebody to take down his, so he found Ganesha. He's the only person who can do without mistakes. And Ganesha said, yes, one condition. You should not stop. I cannot tolerate. I will just keep writing. You have to match my speed. You have to narrate at my speed. And Vyasa has not even composed it at the time. In his mind, he has to compose and narrate. Poor Vyasa, sometimes he has to take a breath, all that, right? So he made a counter condition. Yes, I will not stop, but every verse that you write, you should understand. And this is where Vyasa, apparently, he knew that there are only two people who would understand everything. In the mortal world, there are only two people. That is Vyasa and his son Shuka. Shukacharya, because Shuka, it means parrot also. Shuka is the most purest being. And therefore, is so pure. His mind understands everything. In fact, there is one story to show that there were in the village, there were a bunch of women taking bath in the village pond or lake. Then Vyasa was walking by there, and they all saw him. They were, there was this shame, so they quickly got out and covered themselves in their towels or whatever. And so Vyasa goes to the village, and behind Vyasa comes Shukacharya. And when they saw Shuka, then they went back into the water. They didn't bother to do what they did before. So they were just very happy. And then Vyasa observes this. And then he asked the ladies, so when I walked past, you guys were so worried, filled with shame, all that. But when Shuka he is much younger. He's a son. He's much younger. And you were not even worried about anything. Then they all said, we didn't see anything. His mind was so pure that it had no bad thoughts. So that is the power of a very pure mind. Shuka is supposed to have had such a pure mind. Then Vyasa says, there's one person who quite likely would understand this Grantha shlokas, and that is Sanjaya, because he also has a very pure mind. Sanjaya is the one who's giving the commentary to Dhritarashtra. Okay, so Granthis, this is Vyasa gives this counter condition to Ganesha. Ganesha, yes, I will agree, but you have to understand everything. And what Vyasa will play the trick. Whenever he was out of breath, he will give a Granthi shloka, so that Ganesha takes some time to think about it, and then he catches his breath. Okay, so throughout the Mahabharata and in the Bhagavad Gita also, you see Granthi shlokas. So, shloka. Nasato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubayorapi drishtontaha, vanayostattvadarshibhihi. Na asato vidyate bhavaha. there is no existence for the unreal. Asat is unreal. Okay. Na asate vidyate vidyate. Know that there is no existence. Bhavaha is existence for the asat. Na asato vidyate bhavaha. Na bhavo vidyate sataha. For the real, there is no non-existence. Na abhavaha, non-existence. Vidyate means understand that there is no non-existence for the real. So confusing. What is he trying to say? Ubhayorapi drishtontaha vanayo tattvadarshibhihi. Vanayo, these ubayor, both, these both, api drishtontaha, those. So the tattvadarshibhihi means those who see the tattva. Tattva is the essence, the real, the actual nature. Tattvadarshibhihi, those, the people who see the tattva, for them, the ultimate truth of both are known. So this is what it says. It's very confusing, right? The seers of reality, that's tattvadarshibhihi, they see no existence for the unreal. There's no non-existence for the real. The ultimate truth is known by this. Okay. So here is where we again come to this. There is something called, so the Sat and Asat. Asat doesn't have its own existence. It has something called a borrowed existence. It's a very important concept. Sat has its own independent existence. Atma Satyaha Jagat, that is Anatma, is anything that is not Atma. Mityaha, which means it doesn't have its own real existence. Mithya is myth, it's mythical, it's the same word, it's all the same root. It's false because it's subject to change. So if it's subject to change, it can't remain like this, right? So you keep an apple over time, it will decay. It's no longer an apple. It's some bunch later, it will just fall into some stuff, right? This is the example that is given, okay, to understand this concept. Independent and borrowed existence. Sat has independent existence. Asat has borrowed existence. Let's take water in a vessel. You're heating it over a fire. Water is hot because vessel is hot. Fire, so similarly, vessel is hot because fire is hot. Fire is hot because fire is hot. So you see, fire has independent existence. It produces heat on its own. Heat in the water is an incidental property borrowed from the vessel, but the vessel's heat is also borrowed from the fire. So the heat in the water and the vessel, they are incidental properties. So asat, and so this is so important. You have to, if you look at the world around, it is just sat and asat, atma, anatma. And the tattvadarshibhihi, they know the difference between the two. That's what it says. So Shankara gives many more examples. Swami Paramatmananda, he just condenses into this one example and he gives us. Corollary. So I told you, now you're reading like a math or a science class. This is Vedanta, which is why Vedanta appeals to all the heady intellectual professors, both in the East and the West, because it is very systematic. There is no something God popped out of that, this, all that. No, it is. It's all those are used to just create ornamental things, but behind this, it is pure logic. Okay. Whatever is incidental is borrowed, therefore it's subject to loss. Atma has independent existence. Body has borrowed existence. Once Atma is the one which powers the growth from the embryo it just makes it grow. It is like the light we saw. In the presence of the light, everything happens. Atma, once it leaves, the body decays. Now, there are other examples. Wave and water. Wave comes and goes, but the water is always there. Pot and clay. The pot can break down and shatter into million pieces. It can get crushed by a truck going over this. It'll just crush it into a sand, essentially. But the clay, that still remains. Similarly, body and Atma. Atma remains, that is Sat. Asat is the body. So it is Mithya, because the pot, it's there. Next moment, it's just clay around. That's why they use the word Mithya. Some people even call it Maya, but the technical word is Mithya. Is it clear so far? Atma Satyaha, Jagat or Anatma, Prakriti, whatever you call it, Jagat Mithyaha. This is the entire of Vedanta. Okay, any questions so far? So we've only covered 6 verses. So yes, Patya?
Brahma and Atma both are same.
Yeah, so that'll come. Yeah, so we remember in the beginning we said the third Shatkam is Ishvara or Brahman and Atma Aikyam. It is a grand equation that connects these two. Okay, equation. When does equation? Now that you ask me, I'll tell. Equation, would we ever write 8 is equal to 8? No, because they're both same. Equation is written to try to identify, see the relationship between two things which seemingly look similar but not exactly similar. Do you write 9 is equal to 8? No, we don't write. We write 9 minus 7 is equal to 15 minus 13. Right? Both are 2. Seemingly different, but they are equal. That is where the equation. Similarly, the Brahman, Atma, it's like wave and ocean. They are seemingly different, but essentially the same thing.
Actually, I heard Brahmam Satyam Jagat Mithya.
Yeah. So Atma, the Brahman, they use it interchangeably.
Okay.
Because
yes.
there is the equality in that.
Okay.
Okay, so let's I should probably stop and we should do the chanting. It's